Good morning and welcome to this Ask the Expert style webinar on Trimble Access and Trimble Connect. My name is Richard Selby. I'm the Customer Support and Training Manager here at KOREC, and I'm with my colleague Khalil Ahmed, who's the Senior Team Member here for the Office Support Team. So Khalil will be monitoring any questions that come in during the webinar, whilst I'm going to run through those that we've already received. So the mics are muted for all those attending. Please submit any questions that arise during the webinar into the chat panel. We'll record the webinar for catch-up viewing later. So the purpose of this webinar is to answer questions relating to Trimble Access and the Connect data synchronization service. Most of the questions already received relate to Access 2017 rather than 2018. However, it's likely to change in future as 2018 becomes more widely used. And most of these questions relate to Trimble Access rather than the Connect service. So we've used these webinar questions we've already received and combined with a couple that we frequently get asked in support to put together the content for today. We'll take each question in turn, but to give the webinar a bit of structure, we sorted the various questions together into some themes. We'll go through as many as we've got time for. To say any questions submitted during the webinar, Khalil and myself will address at the end, time permitting. If you send in a question and we don't have time to cover it this time around, then we'll try and prioritize it for the next webinar we do. So we're going to start off with questions relating to the Trimble VRS Now service, move on to coordinate systems, and then lastly look at a question we received regarding stationing. So the first question, how do I set up alternative GNSS contacts? How to modify an existing GNSS contact record or how to create a new one is a question that we get asked quite frequently in support. And a GNSS contact record essentially looks like the two screen grabs that you can see on the slide here. These GNSS contacts are normally hidden away in the access settings, and they aren't something that you normally change unless you have a specific reason to. As you can see from the slide, the record stores information such as which data connection you're going to use for your internet connection and which VRS user account is going to be used for the survey. So they're generally utilized behind the scenes when a VRS survey starts, and in fact many VRS users won't even be aware of their existence. So to put that record in its context, we'll review the VRS survey startup process. So once you've got a job created, Trimble Access, you're going to hit your measure or stakeout button, and from there, pick your VRS survey style. Following that, depending on which button you've pressed, you're going to select an action like stakeout, point line, measure a point, etc. And once that's picked, the GNSS contact settings are going to be applied. So at this stage, Access is going to check whether a mount point has been pre-selected within that GNSS contact record, or whether it needs to present a pick list to the operator. And once that mount point's been selected, either automatically or manually, then the survey action requested is going to begin. So you can change the settings in Access so that the operator has to pick a specific GNSS contact record each time they start a VRS survey. So, given the question at the start, why might you want this to happen? Well, alternative GNSS contacts might be required to set up for different VRS account logins, set up to use different SIM card, internet connections, or to configure settings for different mount points. It's worth mentioning that putting in incorrect values into these GNSS contact records will probably stop the VRS Now survey starting, so it's important to get the contents correct. So to edit a GNSS contact record in Access, you need to go to your Settings button, the Connect menu, and then select GNSS contacts. And from there, you can review your existing contacts or create new entries. So let's have a look at an existing GNSS contact that I've got running in Access on my PC. So here I've got Access 2017.2. So as per the slide here, we're going to go to Settings, the Connect menu, and here, second item down, we've got GNSS contacts. You can see I've got 2 configured presently for a particular SIM card, one because I'm on my Access emulator on my PC. I've got a Wi-Fi connection set up as well. So it's that Wi-Fi connection I'm just going to tap on to have a look at the settings. You can see the network connection specified, N-trip is selected. There's no direct connection to a mount point, but here's my username and my password, the IP address of the VRS Now service, and the port that it's communicating on. So 2 pages of settings. So when I add a new contact, then you've got a new button at the bottom here. You can create a new contact from scratch, or we can copy an existing one. So I'm going to copy my Wi-Fi connection here. Give it a name for the new contact record. Don't need to change anything here on page 1. But on page 2, should I want to set up this record to use Khalil's login, pop in his username and password, then that should be good to use them as an alternative to my GNSS contact start survey, should I need to use Khalil's details as opposed to my own. So I'm just going to store that now, and that's been added to the list. So it's worthwhile giving each GNSS contact record that you set up a logical name, so you can easily differentiate between them, but more importantly, the field operative, surveyor, site engineer can more clearly differentiate between them if they're presented with a list. So when these contacts have been configured, it's easy to update your VRS survey style so that the user is forced to select one of these when they start a VRS survey. However, what you gain here in terms of flexibility, you may also lose in terms of ease of use. So you have to weigh up the pros and cons of how much choice you want to put in front of the field surveyor or the site engineer. So we'll update the survey style now so that the user is prompted to select which GNSS contact record to use when they start the survey. So to do that, I'm going to go back into my emulator. We can escape this settings screen and back to my main settings page. Box to edit survey styles. Here are my survey styles. I'm going to tap on the VRS Now one. And it's under the rover data link options that I'm going to go, and we've got a tick box here. Once that's ticked and I've stored that change, any user who tries to start a VRS survey using that survey style is going to get prompted to select a GNSS contact. Let's go back to my start page, launch general survey. I'm hooked up here to an RAS receiver. Create a new job. Pick a template for the coordinate system settings. Hit measure, pick my VRS survey style, action measure points, and straight away I'm now presented with a list of GNSS contacts which are set up in different ways so I can pick the appropriate one that I want to use. So in this case I'm going to use Khalil's login that I've just created, an option 4, and now I've got a MountPoint list. Pick the MountPoint I want to use. Survey will start up and the action that I selected.
Waiting for information from the base.
Becomes enabled.
Initialization has been gained.
Okay, so we've initialized and we're ready to go. And that one. So that's how we change and we set up new GNSS contacts. But actually, one of the best VRS tips we can give for the TSC3 in particular is a pretty simple to select your survey style and get started. Particularly if you've got a T-Mobile multi-network SIM as provided with the VRS contact. And this just gives a little bit of extra time for that roaming SIM before you start. Here on the slide, we can see this button at the top here. We've got a circle with a cross in it. If you tap that, Internet Setup screen will open. Bottom right button will be Connect. Once you've hit Connect and it's connected, it'll change to Hang Up. So from there, you can then hit the cross, close up that dialog, and go and start the VRS survey with the internet connection already successfully established. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. What settings do I need to connect direct to a MountPoint? And this question follows on quite nicely from the previous one. Because to change this setting, we need to know how to edit a GNSS contact record, and that's of course what we've just covered. So, as you can see, there are rather a lot of MountPoints available. A MountPoint, essentially a data stream connection, which enables the VRS Now survey to compute the RTK corrections in real time. And these data streams, they may contain different satellite data or broadcast in different formats, namely RTCM or CMR format. And they also provide options relating to whether using OSTN02 or OSTN15 related base coordinate systems, particularly for here in the UK. So if this list is displayed when you start a VRS survey and this is leading to some confusion to the field user as to what to pick, then it is possible to change the GNSS contact settings so that a single MountPoint is pre-selected and the user doesn't see this list at all. So as per the previous question. It's really a question of flexibility versus ease of use. So let's see how we can configure this so we do connect directly to a MountPoint when we start a survey. Well, to do that, I'm going to go back into the settings and to the survey style. Sorry, to my GNSS contacts. So connect GNSS contacts, and I'm going to edit my contact, my Wi-Fi contact. And here on the second page of settings, I'm going to tick the connect directly to MountPoint box, and it's remembered here the MountPoint I last specified into that box, but I could select any from the list shown that's appropriate for my R8S receiver that I'm hooked up to. So with that change made, I'll just enter there and then store to keep that. So it's important that the MountPoint you've just pre-selected there matches the data format set in the VRS survey style. So if you've pre-selected a CMR MountPoint in that GNSS contact record, then the data format in the survey style must also be set to VRS CMR. Likewise, if you've selected an RTCM MountPoint to connect directly to, then the data format in the survey style must then be set to VRS brackets RTCM. If you get that mixed up, the field user is going to see an error message, and they'll then need assistance to resolve that error. So let's move on to the next question, which is, how do I check for mobile data signal reception? So our top VRS tip was to establish the internet connection before starting your survey, as with an internet connection, a VRS survey isn't possible. But what happens if you try to connect and aren't successful? Well, before tearing into the settings, the first thing is to check the mobile data signal available, as indicated typically by the bars and the letters that we're familiar with from our mobiles. Although, to some extent, it is useful to use the information on your mobile as an indicator of signal strength. This shouldn't really be taken as a definitive measure as to what's available. Your mobile might be connected to a different network to the one the SIM in your controller is connected or trying to connect to. And the signal strength indicated can also vary from mobile device to mobile device based on their age and construction. So how to check for the data reception will largely depend on the operating system of the controller being used. And here are a few examples of how to check for signal based on the three main operating systems. So for the TSC3, the easiest way to check what's going on with the mobile data signal is to press the Windows key on the TSC3 keypad, and that will give you this screen that we can see here. And at the top of the screen, there'll be a box next to the speaker symbol with a symbol in that space. Ideally, you'd be hoping to see something like this, H, with some signal bars next to it. But shown here on the slide, here are some variants that you might see depending on what's happening with the device and the signal available. So I'm just going to skip to a TSC3 that I've got plugged into my PC, and I'm just going to hit the Windows button on that TSC3. and I can see what's going on with this particular device and the mobile data status. And we've got here a phone is turned off symbol at the moment at the top. So basically I need to go and turn the phone on. To do that, just click at the top of the screen, TSC3 screen, and click on the phone symbol or the data transfer symbol. From there, it's confirming the phone is off. So if you've booted from cold, it's likely that it will be off, particularly if you've not already attempted an internet connection. So we just need to go into the wireless manager, click on the phone ribbon, the phone tab there, and the phone is going to be switched on. And as that phone boots, you'll see the signal change at the top. Always goes to 3 full bars, four full bars initially before it settles back to show the connection it's got available. Okay, it's for the TSC3. For the TSC7 tablets, that's running Windows 7 or Windows 10, and to check on these, you just need to hit the Wi-Fi or the cellular icon that lives down in the system tray, and from there you'll get a pop-up menu with the cellular data connection, typically shown at the top, with the signal bars available for it. And lastly, if we look at Android, you might be running Catalyst, for example, which would require an internet connection for the highest precision level available. We've of course got our familiar symbols at the top of the mobile screen, but we've also got apps such as network signal info that you can install on an Android device, and that will give you more detail about the data connection status and the signal strength that you're currently picking up. Right, so that's the 3 main operating systems covered, which touch on access, or in the last case, the Catalyst service. Question 4, how can I check which of our VRS licenses are currently being used? Well, you might want to do this if a surveyor or a site engineer calls in because they're getting a login prompt appear in Access when they try and start a VRS survey. Probably means the VRS account is already in use on another device, rather than there being anything wrong with the kit itself. Now you only get 3 goes at entering a correct VRS password, so sometimes it's worthwhile checking before trying different variations and getting your account temporarily blocked out. So the quickest way for someone to check whether the VRS license is already being used is to visit the iScope Live webpage. And in Europe, it's going to require you to visit www.vrsnow.de and logging into that page with your VRS account master email address and password. Given that master login is being used, then this is probably one more for survey managers or senior site engineers. But once logged into this site, then you can click on the iScope Live link and review the active logins associated with your account. So this is what the iScope Live page looks like. Any receivers currently associated with the account, with the VRS account, you can see those that are active, which login name is active, and on the background map you can see where they are currently being used. So I'm going to flip into my Access emulator here. So I'm just going to start the VRS survey.
Waiting for information from the base.
Okay.
Initialization has been gained.
So we've got that survey started. I'm just going to go to my web browser now. Okay, and in my web browser, I'm already logged into the iScope Live web page, and here I can see in this list of active logins, so I've used Khalil's GNSS contact record with his login details. It's now appeared on the iScope Live page, so I can see exactly where we've got the antenna set up here in Liverpool and the current status, fixed status of the survey. So that's really quite a useful tool that's part of your VRS package that enables you to see what licenses you've currently got, what logins you've currently got in active use, and where they all are at any point in time. Just to click on one of these in this list, okay, I can zoom to where it currently is, and we'll get some info, additional info on the screen here relating to it. All right, that's the iScope Live service, useful for checking your logins. The next question, question number 5. Let's read this one out. How do I use PPK survey?
Initialization has been lost. Initialization has been gained.
Well, let me just silence Trimble access there for a moment, ending that particular survey. All right. So question number 5 then. How do I use PPK if I want a VRS survey in an area with no mobile coverage? Well, PPK is a survey method that can be used in those spots where there is no or very limited mobile data signal. The survey is more or less the same as per a normal VRS survey method in terms of the field work and the equipment that you use. The advantages, well, using PPK when there's no data signal are fairly clear. However, there are some disadvantages or perhaps considerations that you need to be aware of with this method. The most significant is that precise coordinates aren't available immediately in real time in the field, as you'd probably assume for a post-process survey method, and therefore PPK isn't going to be appropriate as a method to use when setting out. And as a post-process method, there's no real-time precision reporting for each point measured, so if trying to measure a point in a slightly adverse position, perhaps with respect to sky view, other than perhaps PDOT, there'll be no instant feedback warning you of the precisions. And lastly, the consideration, you need to bear in mind that you'll need a copy of Trimble Business Center in order to post-process the PPK survey data that you've collected. So we can break this PPK survey process up into 3 steps. And the first step is to configure Trimble access ready to perform the survey. This essentially means setting up a PPK survey style in Access, and the key settings being the survey type, the logging interval, and the logging device for the raw data that needs to be collected. So if I come back into my Trimble Access emulator here, I can pop into settings, go into survey styles, just show here how to make a new survey style for a PPK survey. It's really straightforward. So clicking new, putting the new name, and it's a GNSS type we're configuring, which we'll accept. Just then need to change the rover options, so I'll tap on rover options in the list, change the survey type as per the slide to PP kinematic. At this stage I know what receiver type I'm going to use with this survey style, so I'm going to pick my R8S. On page 2, check the logging device is set to the controller, so whatever the controller may be, TSC3, TSC7, etc. And the logging interval is set to the 1 second prescribed. Just check the info on page 3 for my R8S. Yeah. All my R8S signal tracking options are on, so I'll accept this. And I'm going to store that. So I've now got my new survey style. So the second step covers the survey fieldwork. Although the process of measuring points is pretty much the same as for a normal VRS survey, there are a few things you need to take into account. So once you've got everything turned on and the controllers talking to the receiver over Bluetooth normally, then you'd start the survey using the PPK survey style. Now, the means of obtaining enough raw GNSS data for the survey to initialize is on the fly, which essentially means the survey can proceed normally whilst raw data is being collected in the background for the later post-processing. However, based on some observations and recommendations that Khalil has made, it may be a bit, to be on the safe side, perhaps wait for the system to initialize before you begin observing your detailed points. And this should only take about 8 minutes if you've got a pretty reasonable, unobstructed view of the sky. So I'll just pop back to my emulator. Let's go to general survey. I've already got a job open here. So to start the PPK survey, let's go from the measure button, and this time select the PPK survey style that's just been set up. You can ignore the start base receiver option if you're going to use the VRS service to post-process the data against. You can go straight on to measure points. Okay, and that survey is going to start with an initialization countdown in progress. So once enough raw data has been collected in the background for the later post-processing, then that status report at the bottom of the Access display will change to show initialized rather than not initialized. Now, we recommend to keep the survey running for at least 20 minutes if you can, to make sure enough raw data has been collected to give you best chance of successful post-processing. Even if you only need to collect 1 or 2 points, leave it going for a minimum of 20 minutes. So Once all the detail's been surveyed and it's time to finish, check again that the access screen is still showing the PPK state as initialized at the bottom of the screen. And if it's still counting down, then leave the kit in a position with a good sky view and wait for it to initialize. In other words, that countdown to finish before ending the survey and turning off the kit. So it's still merrily initializing away at the moment. If I go back to my slide, skip on a little bit, here we can see this is how it will appear when the system's initialized, and we can crack on and collect as much detail as we need, but just make sure that it shows initialized when you come to turn off the kit and that you've been going for at least these 20 minutes. So the third step is to process the PPK data collected in Trimble Business Center. Until the data is processed, then the coordinates showing in the access job are only going to be of autonomous quality and possibly out of position by several meters. In addition to your normal job file, a PPK survey is also going to create a T02 raw data file, and that's going to be stored in a subfolder with the same name as the job file that you used. So you need to transfer both the job file and the T02 file to a PC so that you can import them into TBC to process. Now, a PPK survey needs to be processed against a raw GNSS dataset that's been observed for a base point with a known position, with the base data covering the same time period as the PPK survey fieldwork. Now, the same VRS account login that you use in the field can also be used within TBC to automatically access the VRS Now service and generate a virtual base data set pretty much automatically for you. So let's look at those steps in TBC. Normally pretty quick and straightforward to perform. So here we've got TBC open, the two files, relevant files, the job file and the T02 file. So here's the check-in for the raw data. So that data has been brought into TBC, and we can see the initial autonomous quality position coordinates. The internet download settings is where we put in our VRS account information so that we can connect to the VRS Now service. To do that, you just need to hit this automatic button. TBC will use the project center for the base position. We'll set the time interval automatically for you, and you just need to select the 1 second option. It's going to request a base point from the VRS Now server. That data set's going to be generated as a Rhinex file. And once it's been generated, it's going to be available to import into the project. So in this example, again, here's the raw data check-in. Check the time interval, it's 0.V146, the name of the base that we've been provided with. You can just see the coordinate for the generated base, and we can give it control quality so that when we process these baselines, we see on the screen they're going to flow outwards from the point with high quality to the observed field detail. If we open a point spreadsheet, we can see these currently autonomous quality positions. When we process these baselines to generate our vectors, they're going to be pushed to their corrected precise locations. So we're going to hit the Process Baselines button, get our processing summary up on the screen. Can just do a quick QC check on the precisions, these post-process baselines, and untick any vectors for points which we consider too high on the precision level. And there we go. That is the process of getting that base in and post-processing the points to give you post-process precise positions. So to summarize the steps, you're going to set up your PPK survey style, understand the fieldwork procedures, the various considerations in terms of when to start the survey, the amount of data to collect, the amount of time to allow to elapse, and leaving the status initialized when we finish, and how to post-process the PPK data then in TBC to a VRS generated base point. So you might find PPK a good get out of jail method, if you like, to fall back on if you come to a location where you've aimed to do a VRS survey and you get to site and there's no data signal available. It might avoid potentially a costly site revisit. Okay, so that's PPK. We'll move on to the next question received. Tell me more about coordinate system settings, including snake grid.
Initialization has been gained.
Okay, we've got PPK survey initialized. It's been running away there in the background, so I could go and start collecting detail on that one. Let's just get it to observe a point there. Great.
Observation stored.
Got one point in there. Let's just close that up. And no. Okay. So I hadn't been going for the 20 minutes there, but I just need to close that up so Trimble Access stops talking to me. So question number 6. So the subject of coordinate systems in Access is going to cover quite a lot of ground. So I've had to be a little picky, selective here as to how to approach this one. Any coordinate system items here that I don't cover, by all means, if you've got questions about them, send them in. If we've got time at the end, we'll look at them, or we'll cover them in the next webinar. So here's the coordinate system selection dialog that every Access user is familiar with. The job has to have a coordinate system selected, even if it's no projection, no datum, because at the end of the day, Access stores raw observations in the job file. So the coordinate system is something that's going to create compute the coordinates based on the coordinate system selected from those raw observations. And these can be retrospectively changed at any time if needs be. So the Access coordinate system library is updated when Access is upgraded. It's also possible to update it manually using a custom.csd file. More about this shortly. So if for example, the shift grid or the geode model files required for, in the UK, OSTM 15 or OSTM 02, they're not present on your controller at the time of survey, then it won't be possible to obtain coordinates in OSTM 02 or OSTM 15 live in the field. Although those files, they can be added post-survey, and then the coordinate system then reselected to include them. So I'm just going to go into the emulator here. Go back to the Trimble Access Start page. Should be a Files button here. So whatever controller you've got, you can go into the file system of that controller. And in System Files folder, that's where the shift grid files and the geoid model files reside. So I can see here I've got my OSGM15 geoid model file here and my OSTM15 shift grid file living in that system files folder. So here we can see Trimble Sync Manager. Now, Trimble Sync Manager is a new desktop tool for use with Trimble Access 2018 and the Connect data synchronization service. So if a job is created, project and a job created using Trimble Sync Manager and synced to Access via the Connect Cloud, then any of these required coordinate system files, these ancillary files, they're going to be synced as well. And with Access 2018, that prevents any issues with any of these associated files not being present on the controller and missing. So on this slide, we can see a job's been created. It's called Waterloo Road, and in the red box here, we just got highlighted that Sync Manager is lined up to transfer the associated shift grid and geoid model files to the cloud to go with this OSTN02 coordinate system specified for the job, just in case they should be missing from the field controller. Let's talk a little bit about templates. So to optimize the selection of coordinate systems when creating a job, an Access template is really the best thing to use, which means it's really quick and easy to select the correct coordinate system for a job. Now, we typically set up 3 templates before a controller leaves us. We've got default for a scale 1 grid coordinate system, OSTN02, and then OSTN15 for use with National Grid in the UK at least. So relating to coordinate systems, we've got the subject of site calibrations used as a coordinate system. So let's review the process for creating a template for a site calibration in Access. In this example, site calibration has been performed using TBC and then loaded onto the controller as a DC file. It's a fairly common workflow. And also here I've got a CSV file providing control for this particular site calibration. So if I go back into my emulator and back into General Survey, into Jobs, Import Export, and I want to import a fixed format file. So I'm going to pick up the DC file that's got the site calibration in it, and it's going to create a new job with the same name as the site calibration. There we go. So back in General Survey, I'm just going to open that new job. There it is, Cheadle site calibration. Let's give it a project height. And again, from the Jobs button, I'm just going to look at the properties of that job. So because it's got a site calibration in it, we can see the coordinate system is specifying local site. And we can infer from the job name, we'd have given it a logical name, that the site that particular site calibration is going to relate to. But just to make it crystal clear to any field operative, we can make a template from that. Makes it a no-brainer to select. So from here, I'm going to go back into settings, and this time onto the templates button. I'm going to make a new one. And change the copy from information to last used job. So it's going to pull in the info from that imported DC file that's in that Cheadle site calibration job. So I want to give my new template an equally clear name. And if I want to pick up the control CSV file, I'll click on the linked files button. And there's my CSV file. Tick to attach it to the template, so that anytime that template's used, that grid control file is there available to check on any of those points. That's now created. So if I go back into General Survey, I'll be able to create a new job and pick my specific template with that site calibration set in it, so there's no doubt that I've got the correct one to use with this particular job. And here's my control. All right, let's just put the emulator to one side. So here we have the Coordinate System Manager dialog, and the Coordinate System Manager stores coordinate system information on your PC, and it's normally installed with Trimble Business Center, but also with various other Trimble software products. It can also be installed standalone. Now, the library used by this is named current.csd, and that lives in a folder on your PC. It's in the program data path, then Trimble and geodata. And this coordinate system database and any files associated with it, such as geode model files, they're going to be stored in that location as well. So it's a good go-to location if you want to track down any coordinate system files. But coming back to the subject of site calibrations, it is possible to save a calibration from Trimble Business Center into the coordinate system library on your PC. If you then copy that library file and you rename it custom.csd, as mentioned briefly earlier, and you place it into the system files folder of an access controller, then it means you can access that calibration file as a named coordinate system entry when you're creating a new job. So again, if you're working with site calibrations, you've got the option to create a template to make this very specific, or you can go this route. So here I've got my coordinate system database open on my PC, and in my local site subfolder within it, I've got a site calibration for our Huntingdon office. If I choose Save As here and make sure it's going into the system files folder for my Access emulator, let's give it the name custom.csd. Okay, I'm going to replace the one that's already there. Just going to go back into my emulator and exit various access screens that I had open. Now I'm going to restart my emulator. Just restarting it there, it's going to pick up that custom.csd that I just saved into its system files folder path. I'm going to General Survey now. Go to create a new job. Go into the coordinate system button and select from library. In the selection list, I can now go to user sites to select a geoid model file for that calibration. And there is my calibration ready to pick with a very specific, clear name. And on the job dialog, then I can see that I've picked that specific site calibration, and there's no ambiguity there. It is the right one for the site of interest. Okay, so we looked at two routes then of site calibrations with coordinate systems, looking at using templates, looking at using saving a calibration in a library on your PC and then transferring that as a custom.csv file onto your access controller to use directly. Lastly, on the topic of coordinate systems for this session is snake grid. Go back to my slides. Snake grid is a coordinate system solution. It's provided by University College London. It's used quite extensively in the rail sector to provide a coordinate system with a scale factor of 1 over a long extended linear area. Further information on this system, this technology, is available from the UCL snake grid website. Now, Trimble Access incorporates this snake grid algorithm so that when a project snake grid DAT file is placed onto an access controller, it can be used directly within Access as the coordinate system with no conversions or alterations required. So for each snake grid system, that file will be issued, and that's the one that we're going to use within Trimble Access. So I go back into my Access emulator. The key thing is that it needs to go into the system files folder for Trimble Access. So take your DAT file and paste it into the system files folder. That should mean when you come to create a job, if you go to your coordinate system button and key in parameters this time, you can select a projection, and from the projection list, snake grid is the one that you want to choose. If we click in the drop down here for the parameter file, it will list all of the DAT files or the snake grid parameter DAT files that are loaded into the system files folder on the controller. Here I've got only one put in, which is the Crossrail snake DAT file. Select the one I want, click accept, optionally pick a geoid model as well, or a geoid model and an offset if appropriate, and that's then good to use as a coordinate system for that job. So in particular, any GNSS surveys recorded in lat logs are going to provide grid easting northern levels based on the snake grid settings. Okay, we're running towards the end of the webinar now. I think, Khalil, we've got 5 minutes left, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. I've got one question left here on those we've already received. Have we had more come in?
3 to 5 questions here which have been asked.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see where you get on with your last question.
All right, we'll see how we go for time on this one then, and we may have to wrap it up there. So the last question, let me put my emulator down here. It's quite a wordy question. When setting up a total station using a resection, is it possible to be working in one job and set up the instrument from a control file on a different job without copying the control to the current job? Well, this kind of question we get asked quite frequently, and it kind of relates to how, particularly for working with setting out how you link your control and setting out data to your work job. In Access, typically we use link files and active maps to link and unlink the data that we're going to work with to the active job that we've got open. We do our station setup within that job and then link and unlink as needs be, shown by the dialog here and the data on the map screen. However, we do understand that users, particularly more familiar with using other manufacturers' equipment, they might want to use different jobs and move between them during their site work. And with access, this normally means a new station setup needs to be completed each time a new job is opened, and that can be a little inconvenient time-wise, particularly if you've got to walk to visit the control. As a solution to this, there's a Trimble dealer in Denmark, GeoTeam. They've come up with a neat little app called QuickStation. It's not very expensive. It's only £89. And using this QuickStation app, you can quickly transfer a station setup, a resection, etc., from any one job to another job, pretty much almost instantly, and carry on work. So I think we're nearly out of time, but to just quickly show you how we can do that before we finish. So I'm in Access. I've got a job with some control in, but potentially I can use to do station setup. So because I'm not connected to a live total station, I'll just key in some obs here.
Observation stored.
And I just reset to a second station. Again, I'll have to key these in because I'm not hooked up to a real instrument.
Observation stored.
So I've got my resection. I'm going to store it in this job,
Station setup completed.
this Waterloo control job. For the sake of argument, I want to work in another job, so I just need to go back to my start page, open the QuickStation app, and then I can transfer that setup to an existing job or a new job. Just click transfer. I'm going to go to an existing job this time around and go to my set out job where my setting out date is located. And there I go. I'm straight now. I'm in that new job. So I'm now in the Waterloo set out job and I'm ready to roll. Here's my resected position and my setting out data. So that QuickStation app, it just remains open in the background and you can quickly toggle to any job you like without having to complete a new station setup. Really like that. That's pretty neat. Apps like this, they can be installed using the Trimble Installation Manager. If there's a tick next to anything in here, it's going to be installed. Green, it's already there. Some of these apps you can already, you've got the option to try before you buy. But if you're interested in one, get in touch with us, and pretty easy to set up and use on your access controller. Right, we've burnt right up until the end of our allocated time there. We do have some questions, but I'm afraid we're right up to our limit. We'll have to cover these next time around. But by all means, if you want to follow up on any of the subjects covered today, or any questions you'd like to suggest for the next session above those that we've already received during the webinar, then please get in touch and we'll aim to do this again soon. To get in touch with us, you can use the info here on the slide. We've got the support@korekgroup.com support address for Khalil's team here in the UK. Similar address for the team based in Ireland. We've got our support page on the KOREC website. Here it is, and on this support page we've also got a link to our knowledge base page, which we're busy populating with useful documents and software and tools that you might find useful. And also there's a little button on here where you can submit support tickets for Khalil's team here to deal with. So thanks again for watching the webinar today on Access and Connect. If you submitted a question we weren't able to answer it this time, we'll endeavour to do so next time around. So thanks again from Khalil and myself, and goodbye for now.